know you have heard it all before. A woman can't raise a boy into a man, so that boy is going to run all over you. But that has nothing to do with this. Because I've come to realize that when the world starts to talk about a woman being able to raise a boy into a man, they mainly talk about the hardships. And they neglect one of the most important elements in life, and that's knowing how and giving love. And not shying away from the woman that gave him life when she tried to give a public kiss. Another thing that I realize is that the world will talk down on a woman whether she does good or bad, if her 100% is only 40% in their eyes. Because all they see is a child growing up in a single-parent home making a mistake. So evidently it must be the mother not doing her job. But they don't see the nights of sorrow. The prayers hoping that God get your baby out of the ghetto, or waking up on a wet pillow due to night cries. People passing judgment when they made the same mistakes as a child. The only difference is their parents knew people in high position, so getting a lawyer was nothing because their parents could afford it. When I was a child, I used to think that love came in the form of high-priced clothes and shoes. So mama, I apologize for thinking that you did not love me because you could not afford it. But for someone to say that a woman cannot raise a boy into a man, then they lie. A woman would not be able to raise a boy into a man if they don't try. Success is embedded in the sacrifices, the willpower, and the determination to surround your son with positive people that will help implant tools to reach goals. But a boy can have both the mother and father present and still make the same mistake. But until he put it in his mind that he want to do what's right, then he'll just be going along with no breaks. There are men who made mistakes as a child but did not get caught, and they're now sitting in corporate offices. So to my single parents, do not be discouraged if your son is not excelling like a helicopter. Sometimes momentum have to be built up before the flight take off, and there will be times when momentum will be reduced due to immature decisions, but making a mistake is not the mistake. The mistake comes when you begin to live a life that was never a part of God's vision. We're living in a world where people don't believe things unless they see it. People look at the man that I am today and they congratulate my mother for raising a man of valor, but my life is no secret. I grew up poor. I grew up in the same neighborhood that people are afraid to drive through. I've had friends who have murdered others. I've had friends who have gotten murdered, and I've had friends who have committed suicide too. My mother cannot compete with the things that I learned from the streets. However, the streets cannot compete with the love that I received from my mama. When she first held me in her arms and thanked God for finally having a son, it was that same love that allowed her to stick with me through the drama. Get suspended or kicked out of school, stealing, and a whole list of other things that I dare not to speak on. But I am convinced that before I knew the Lord for myself, it was my mother's prayers that brought me back home. And I'm grateful to be walking in my God-given ability. I thank God for my mother praying for me so I did not drown when my dreams were more deeper than my mental capability. But one day I realized that not having the latest Jordans did not mean that my life was going to end, and kicking it with friends was not better than going to family functions. So to all my single mothers, stand the fight. Don't worry about what the world say behind your back, because one day your son is going to see the light. And regardless of the outcome, you speak life over your seed and never, ever, ever, ever give up, because as long as you breathe, there is hope. I hope that you see me and find encouragement and understand that life is the way that you make it out to be. Because even after all I have accomplished, there are people who still doubt me. But one day, your son might be standing in my place. And just as my mother do every time I get up to speak in front of people, a smile is going to light your face. Everything that you have been battling with, you would take victory over it, and your soul will be in the right place. But you got to keep God first. You got to stay prayed up, and you have to be steadfast. Every tribulation will have an expiration date, because they will not last. And the world will grow to love your son. But it is your love and the words that you allow to come out of your mouth that will get him out of the quicksand. You might get bruised, you might feel exhausted, but please, please be persistent. Because if you do, in the end, they will say that you raised a boy into a man.